Today, people talk about what's happening at Vindhya, what inclusion has brought a difference. What has not happened is about operationalizing it, institutionalizing it. A lot of times, inclusion is looked at something like sometimes it's just a checkbox. So, for me, independence is making your own choices, getting that respect, and it all comes when you have that financial stability and that confidence. I'm really angry at what we have not been able to create. Why we feel it is not important. At an educational system, right? How many of our teachers are sign language interpreters, right? If they had got the right access to education, access to all those small things from, travel to transport, to the playgrounds, they didn't start at the same point as we started. I'm really angry at that.
Some businesses chase profit, some chase purpose. But what if you could build both together? From starting a company in her early 20s to creating opportunities for thousands of people who are often left out of the mainstream, she has built more than just an enterprise. She has built a movement. As the founder and managing director of Vindhya E-Infomedia, Pavitra YS has created an inclusive workplace where talent is not limited by physical or social barriers, but empowered through opportunity and belief.
Hello, welcome to Expressions. I'm Neha. Today I have a wonderful guest with me. Her name is Pavitra. Let's dive into her journey and get to know her more. Hi, Pavitra. Thank
Hi.
you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I read about you and was very, very impressed by the work you do. So before Vindhya, before the awards, before the 2,600 employees, who were you? What was that girl in her late teens, tutoring slum children? What were you searching for?
I'm a girl, I think, who started, being a part of, the space of inclusion because I'm a twin who was born, from the womb. I've been creating spaces, or I have been, a space was created for me. It was just not me, but,
Yeah.
I think I was that girl who was, just trying to, be curious. I was somebody who was very, very expressive. You can also tell the most talkative in the family, right? And what was I actually seeing or searching for is probably, the beauty of how people bring out the best. Because I used to see people, smiling after a doctor visit, right? What does the smile mean? How does this just come? What's behind this?
Yeah.
Is it just the conversation, or just the sheer love and affection each other share? So I think these were, what I was as a child, really looking at. And I grew up in a very conservative joint family, which always said, go dream big, and, don't stop your dreams, and just supported you. And every small thing we did, it was really appreciated. I really remember that, my grandfather appreciating me for making just a chutney. And the entire community there knew that, I had made the best chutney in the world. So I think that's so wonderful. That's how my upbringing was. I think that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
And I was just looking forward to create something which I knew that, my people around will support, acknowledge,
Yeah.
and, appreciate.
Yeah. And just curious, where's your other twin?
So today, she's in London.
Okay.
She's also
Her name is?
Pallavi.
Okay.
Yeah, she's also an entrepreneur,
Okay.
trying to be different and somebody with multiple talent and skills. She's a singer, she's a great mother, she's an entrepreneur. Yeah, it's
Nice.
just,
Well, so you started off teaching some slum children. What were you really teaching them?
It's a very beautiful thing, right? Actually, I was learning, not really teaching, because I just love the role of being a teacher, right? You're writing, you have a set of people who are listening to you. So I think it was more me trying to learn more, become more clear about what I have learned
Yeah.
in the process of teaching.
Yeah.
And just bringing people together, having fun, and also you are setting some stage for this, right? So it's just that dressing up and being there with people, kids, and sometimes it is your own friends,
Yeah.
whom you are
Yeah.
learning from, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it was. So
Yeah.
I think.
Sure. You lost your father very young. You married at 19 and you were still studying CA. So most people would have just barely survived that phase, but you went beyond. What was it like?
I am still, really surviving the loss I had. I mean, it's something which has been very, very hard. But what it has really taught me is how just survival doesn't, create a difference or make a change, right? And, I moved away, and thanks to, my husband who actually helped me to, come slowly to a stage where I started believing in that I have to create a system which can change not just me, not just few people around, but actually a lot of things, which it actually become a movement today, right? We started as a very, very small thing of trying to come out. Of course, marriage is a milestone. Being a chartered accountant would have been a milestone, but today I think every day today sets a real big challenge and a milestone. When I look at people, when I see that they are coming out of just a survival mode to being really that hero, or a person who want to be themselves. I think that's what moving away from just a survival, in trying to look at small things, just being with people, just creating that opportunity led to, I think, larger, bigger things. That's what I moved away from. And I think it's beyond, would you say? I mean, we never thought about it. It was not planned, okay? But there was always an intent to, try to be different, try to do something which really makes your father feel that, yeah, I think he stood up and you lived your life, you lived your dreams. And that's so I look at it that way, which is very big.
Yes, absolutely. And I totally relate to it.
Yeah.
So you were 22 when you started. Did you truly believe that it would work, or were you simply just moving forward on conviction? I mean, back then, can you think about how you thought and
I
felt?
think when I started, I actually believed in doing something, not really questioning or moving to an outcome saying that will it work. Sometimes you say that, I think for me it really worked. Ignorance is bliss, right? I really didn't think about the outcome. I was dreaming about it. I still continue to dream in making that change happen. For me, it was only doing the right thing, giving your best and ensuring that, you turn up every day with a lot of energy, and think that this is the only best thing you are, doing in your life. So that's how I looked at what I started.
So your husband said that business has to be profitable to really make a difference. So many in social work resist that idea, actually. So can profit and purpose genuinely coexist? Go.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole reason why we started was we didn't want to dilute what the message or the cause we are getting associated with. Secondly, I think profit without purpose is very hollow, right? It makes you just run behind numbers. And but today, purpose actually defines, the larger profit. Purpose actually helps me, create something, not just for the sake of creation, but having some meaningful creations. So profit helps me to bring that scale to purpose. So I think they're so interconnected. and they're not independent of each other. And without both of these things, I don't think so we will be able to create something which is larger.
Yeah.
Today, Vindhya is actually looked at as an organization which doesn't believe in just, a charity or a sympathy, which the community doesn't want.
Yeah.
But today we believe in the strength. Today we believe in what people can bring together, just look like you and me, and then not look at them differently. I think that's what I think the coexistence of profit and purpose brings on
Yeah.
the table.
Very well said. And how is it like working with your husband? Wow. I mean, most people want to give it a break, but
It is beautifully complicated. But I think the beauty is, he comes with rich experience.
yeah.
He's somebody who brings onto the table a lot of perspectives. We actually separated the emotion and the role very clearly. We defined what each other will do. I mean, for me, being with people, learning from them, be that teacher. That is something I really loved. I really enjoyed. And I continue to do that. And Ashok is somebody who's really good at, setting up the larger vision and, trying to give, dreams which are bigger than, your imagination. So I think we coexisted
Yeah.
with our own, complications and the beauty. And yeah, sometimes it is difficult. I wouldn't say it is easy because with your own people, there's a lot of ego you
Yeah.
carry, right?
Yeah.
And you want it this way.
Yeah.
And you really sometimes are not very professional in
Yeah.
that sense. Yeah, it was difficult. But it was also easy because when things didn't go well, both of us were looking at the same goal. And it was fine. When one of us were low, the other one really said, no, let's go. We have a long way to reach. I think it's just that it helped. It was complicated. At times it is tough, and it is also beautiful.
Who is better organized, you or him?
I'm better organizer.
We'll check with him later. So the word inclusion is widely used in boardrooms today. Does that help your cause or does it dilute it?
See, inclusion helps. These conversations of inclusion helps you to get the, conversation started, right? It makes a beginning. Today, people talk about what's happening at Vindhya, what inclusion has brought a difference. But what has not happened is about operationalizing it, institutionalizing it. A lot of times, inclusion is looked at something like, sometimes it's just a checkbox, let's do it. Or sometimes it's just a feel-good thing, ki, acha chalo, we'll have a few people. But inclusion for me, today, of course, over a period of time, it's been 19 years into it, things have changed. We've moved away from just talking or saying it is good to have, nice to have, to really, meaningful to have.
Yeah.
And we still have a long way to go. But yeah, we see that it is more sometimes driven for at a larger leadership level, but it flows very, very, not as strongly as it should, because there are a lot of perceptions, there are a lot of questions,
Yeah.
which is unanswered. And we as leaders, I think, have to take that responsibility of not setting just the goals,
Yeah.
but also leading people to reach these goals.
Yeah.
I think that's when inclusion will get its true meaning and definition. And once it's operationalized, I think it's just happening.
So basically setting examples.
Yeah.
So what does independence look like to people you serve and how do you help them achieve it?
I think it's very beautiful. I mean, at Vindhya, even with myself, I have seen independence taking shape at different stages. One, independence comes not just with employment. Independence is one, financial stability. We have seen, especially, at our rural centers, one of our rural centers in Krishnagiri. I was having a conversation with one of our employee, and she was dressed well. And I said, "What's today? I mean, something special." She said, "Yeah, it's my anniversary." I said, "Wow!" And we congratulated her. And what's the plan? Ma'am, actually, I have to tell you this. Till a few years ago, I mean, till I got employed, it was I cook at home, we all celebrate together and all of that. But today, I take my family outside. We go out for dinner. We celebrate it, right? I think that is independence, right? You make a choice, right? You decide what has to happen, right? And that self-respect. I think all of us really look forward for that self-respect. So for me, independence is, having your own say, you making your own choices, getting that respect from yourself, not just from outside, right? And it all comes when you have that financial stability and that confidence.
Absolutely. Beyond employment and physical access that you help your team with, so what emotional shift have you seen in your community?
Oh yeah, one of the biggest shift is confidence. Biggest shift. I had seen people, I mean, even during interviews, I remember when I started in the year 2006, I was giving interviews than me taking interviews because people were not opening up. There's a lot of low confidence level, the way they look, the way they speak, the way they're dressed, the place they are in. It was so very different. But the kind of shift which has happened today is they stand up and speak, to our clients. I mean, the leaders who come and ask a lot of multiple questions about, the process insights, the way we do things, what is my end customer talking about. I think that confidence is a major shift, which is not just led to having conversations, but creating a life for themselves. I have heard from people that we didn't know what is tomorrow, right? What would be tomorrow? But today I am creating tomorrow for my children, right? They found partners. They look at their own lives differently. They want to lead a life which is as normalized as it is, right? And all of this, I think, starts from the confidence. And that is a beautiful shift which has happened. They have their voices. They actually feel this is a right, which they should, and go and probably earn it, drive it. And today they don't say that, give me pity or sympathy, give me a job. I'm just like you and me, right? I want to live a life which is as meaningful, and I also want to grow. I also want career growths. It's just beautiful. I mean, people have bought houses, right? They go back and help their families build, a life which is very different. Their siblings are studying, they set themselves for a larger, growth and future. So it's so beautiful that I think primary is confidence.
That can do wonders, actually. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you work with the acid attack survivors, people on the autism spectrum, and even wheelchair users. This isn't an easy, workforce to manage. So what's one thing you wish the corporate would understand about about this?
I think what I have understood is what I would like to share is each one of us are different, right? I look different, you look different, you come with your own different challenges, I come with one. Some are visible, some are invisible. But in all of these things, the only core thing which I want to, tell, or which I feel I have understood, is that, just don't assume anything, right? Just don't define by your perceptions, right? And let's go by what each one of them carry. I mean, their own strengths, right? What I have seen in our own people, their strength to hold on to things, right? Their strength not to give up, right? Their strength to, keep working towards something which they feel is very, very important. Their strength of valuing everything, their strength of valuing, just a smile, just a tap on the back, right? Just that, beautiful. It's very, very beautiful. I have seen we celebrating birthdays, right? I mean, I have a very beautiful experience when we initially started. My daughter was 6 months, and as we got into it, it was, I think, her first year or second year birthday. We didn't have money to celebrate because we had invested a lot of money and we didn't put any thought towards it. But yeah, as parents, we really wanted to do something. But let me tell you, I think it's the small team which was around with whatever we were earning. They put together something. We had a cake, we had few samosas and one bottle of Fanta or something. And it was just so special, right? And I could see that the amount of value for that evening for my daughter on her birthday, which they created, was priceless,
Yeah.
right? So what I have learned is the amount of value to smallest things is very high,
Absolutely.
right? And which we tend to ignore, right?
Take it for
we
granted.
take it for granted actually, and that's what I feel. We should not look away.
Yeah.
We should learn from them, and that makes us better individuals because you actually stop cribbing, right? We had so much. But yet we complain, right? And that is something which has been very, very unique. And it is important both in your personal and a professional lives. How to bring people together, especially in teams. You need somebody who can bring people together. How to value something which you have and don't ask for new things. That is something I have learned. So we created a small accommodation space during those days of our initial this one, and it was very beautiful. So we converted our conference room into accommodation space during our initial years. I still remember this. So one of our employee who stayed there, we had, I think, 3 or 4 of them who stayed. Ma'am, now I think we just trying to come out of challenges. We didn't have jobs, but still we are saying we will work as a team. We will not give up. We will stay together. This guy said, you know what? We are now a 24/7 center. So that was, so special. In all of that, we are thinking and we know that we don't have anything, but we're not being able to pay salaries. But yet somebody stands up and say that, you are.
See the brighter side.
Yeah, see the brightest side. I think that is what has been very, very unique. And that's what all of us, not just corporates, I think each of us, should see in them and not look at them in the eyes of disability and the perceptions we have in us.
Yeah. Very well said. So, when someone on your team has a significant disability, not just physical, how do you show up for them?
I think as somebody who, when people are reaching out to you, I think I show up to them as somebody who's not reacting, who's listening, who's actually present with them by not making judgments, opinions, or giving any gyan. You're just there. You're just listening because what I'm speaking about myself is totally different than what you undergo, you understand, right? It's very different, right? All I want to do is, if somebody is failing, have I really led somebody to failure is my first thing. Because as a leader, I feel I am responsible for setting up somebody to success or to fail. So I would probably question myself that and just listen and be present and nothing else. This is something I've learned from my daughters. I remember because both of us are into business. My kids grew up with all the business conversations and everything. So we were there having this conversation, during our dinner. And my daughter was saying something. We were also talking something. There were a lot of conversations happening. And suddenly she went quiet and we said, what happened? Go on. She said, Mama, both of you, I want you to be present here, right? Don't go to Vindhya or don't go to, a client. Let's be present here. Even if my conversations are stupid, hear me out. I think that was our biggest learning. So I felt since then, I think being present and just listening and if making somebody that they're being heard, I think.
Yeah, that's a very big, huge thing. So, do you feel individuals with disabilities are adequately represented in leadership roles across your organization?
I wouldn't say we have really done a great job there. I must be very honest. Yes, we have quite a good representation, but still we have a long way to go. We still have one layer of leadership which we still don't have a disability representation. We are working towards it, because bringing somebody at a decision making role is always something you feel that you look for people with experience, you look for people who have solved these things and all of that. We are now looking for people who can live with us, who can challenge us, who can define or bring in new perspectives. Of course, a lot of layers we have built. In fact, we've made a mandate that, up to managerial level, we wouldn't do any lateral hiring. That's a mandate which we have taken. And we do have today, I'm very, very proud and happy about them, that we do have people who are leading a team size of like 200, 300 people, having conversations with the client, defining strategies on, driving something which is very large, as good as, say, processing a loan worth 200 crores in a month, right? And that's the, kind of work which these leaders are doing. And you can say that some of them have just started with us. It's not that they come with a lot of experience and all of that. We've all, grown together, walked this path together, and that's how we've become leaders. Yes, we still have to really work on making our leadership roles a little more inclusive. But yeah, to a greater extent, we have managed today in the organization.
Mhm. So, are you aware of instances of bullying, harassment, and or harmful conduct towards individuals with disabilities? And how common are such behaviors?
Very common, very, very common. I wouldn't say most of them are intentional, some are just unconscious, right? In fact, I remember within our own organization, people didn't know that it was bullying, or what is the other person feeling, unless until he stood up and said that, what, I don't like this. Again remember recently during one of our conversations, which was more an informal conversations in a group. There was one girl who stood up and said, you know what, nobody can take me for granted. I wouldn't let anybody to, bully me or anything. So today, I mean, we are trying to create a space where people can stand up and say that this is not allowed. Is it happening? It is happening, right? But are we now looking into it, making people more, sensitive towards it, or make them understand or aware of what does bullying mean?
Yeah.
Is a initiative which we consciously take at all forums. Wherever it is, informal or formal, outside the office, inside the office, during just a conversation also, right? So yeah, that's something which constantly happens. Yeah, there is still a lot of awareness which is needed. And sometimes you think it's just fun. It is not something you're trying to demean somebody, but it's just that it's important we understand that this is not something which will make the other person happy or feel good about. So yeah.
So, how do you ensure your environment is genuinely safe, welcoming, sensory friendly, especially for individuals on the autism spectrum? Sorry.
I think in all these years, we've just not looked at a disability or a person to create a space. We've always created a space which is open, which is unbiased, non-judgmental,
Yeah.
because it's just not about having a few, right? It is about having many. There are a lot of people who are very different. Sometimes you feel somebody who cannot see but still walking around without a stick, they are the king or the emperor of that, kingdom which they live. And you also have different people with different types of disability, without disability, right? So what we try to create is a space which is a space which is no assumptions, right? We have a policy which very clearly says we ask and we don't assume. Something which I don't know, I come and ask you that you have this disability, would you need help, right? With autism, it is a little different. It's like sometimes there's no eye contact. They don't like touch. So you have to really win their trust to be close to them, right? So what people do is just be with them, not really try to make any opinions, or, even the manager whom they're assigned with, right? It's just that we define the project so meticulously, and what they believe in is whatever is defined will be done the way it is defined, right? And they also have this habit of coming and updating you whether you want it or not, right? That's also something they've accepted, and probably we've used this as a best practice and included in a lot of things, right? If just walking by, just come say hello to Pavitra and say that, you know what, I met this guy, this is my audit metrics, I've ensured it is all well, or something is not right. Right, so you are like a real time, getting an update. So which is very beautiful. So I think creating that space, open spaces, and not defined by rules and conditions, really creates that space for everyone. Sometimes you need that space. I need that space. It's just not them, right? You just want to just go sit in one corner and not to have any conversations with anybody, which is okay, right? Why is that? That's what we look at when, why is that it is only for somebody with autism? Why is that somebody, for somebody else? It is for everybody. If you feel this is what you want, this is how it is. Of course, we have our own set of frameworks or guidelines which we have for an organization to conduct professionally the work we do and all of these things. But for people, it's a space which we create. If you want to speak, we are happy to speak. If you don't want to speak, you want to write something, we've created those spaces. These will be in anonymity as well. Yeah, you can just write. You don't have to, tell who you are. But we will ensure that these are taken very seriously. And we have a, we call it Dhwani or Wind Care, where it just reaches to few people. I'm also a part of it. One of us have to, action without questioning, without, being biased. So that's the kind of spaces we try to create. And also having those informal conversations. It's just a space to create for you to be who you are. And I call this, friend rising, because we make more friends, we come together, there's no hierarchies. And those are the kind of spaces we want to create. Like all these celebrations, people think HR is really putting up, these celebrations together. But these are spaces which are created. Like we celebrate birthdays, okay? When we started celebrating birthdays, initially I saw people, sometimes they were in tears. I thought they didn't like it, or they're very, very happy or overwhelmed and all of that. But when we actually asked them, right, what do you think about it? Why are you crying? Are you not happy with this? Or do you want us to do something different? Or are you so overwhelmed? They said, ma'am, you will not believe when I say this. They said, first time my birth is being celebrated. That's a space which we have created for them to share what they think they are feeling or they're experiencing. And that's what we believe in creating spaces for. Sometimes it's very, very tough. Sometimes it's very hard. Sometimes they say that we've started to know about ourselves in these spaces, because we just not see ourselves, but we see people who are like us. Right? We don't complain, but we actually compliment each other. When I can't see, when she can not speak, right? But I can speak, she can see, right? That's how we bring these spaces together. And in all this, we learn, that each one of us are gifted. And everyone, can do something, is good at something. And we exist when we all come together. We exist when we coexist, right? That's the beauty about.
So I was just asking you this only actually. How do you celebrate the unique strengths and perspectives of the neurodivergent individuals rather than just focusing on supporting? Or
Yeah.
so
I think the only way is being open, asking more questions,
Yeah.
and also probably not define somebody by disability, because some people say they have a disability. Some are so invisible you will not understand, and some may not want to share it, right? And you have to respect that space. And we try to, give them the agency, to decide on a few things. And that's what we are now working towards. Use the power to, give them the control, give them the accountability to help us understand. Because a lot of these things, even today, even after working in this space, sometimes I don't understand. Right? I also have a lot of questions at times as why this happens. I mean, interestingly, I had one guy who didn't have both his hands, okay? And it was a disability from his birth itself. And he's a gold medalist, he's a graduate. He comes to me and he says, "Ma'am, give me a job." Um, I'm smiling, but inside me there is a lot of things which is happening. Like, how can I get my job? There's so many things we have to do. You have to write, you have to, send emails, you have to do multiple things. And I'm like still questioning, right? But this guy says, "Ma'am, can you give me a job?" I said, "I want to, but I don't know." Then he said, "Ma'am, did you look at me properly?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm looking at you. I know that you don't have both your hands. Is that what you see?" Then he said, I said, "Yeah, because all I've known in my life is you need these hands to do something, like typing or receiving a call." And he said, "Ma'am, I can do all of this. You know how? With my feet. They're as strong as your hands." I didn't have an answer, right? But I still could not believe what he said. He said, "Are you sure? Don't just..." And we were doing this data entry process. I mean, it was not just simple calling also. I said, "You have to have a minimal speed and we have to deliver this because otherwise my client would complain and all." Well, yeah, let's try. Then we gave him a chair, and there was this keypad which was on the table. He said, "Maybe I will want you to do only one change. I would not keep my keypad on the table. I would keep it on the floor." And he just started typing, and he just went on and on and on. Right? You just don't know everything. And I think it's important you accept that you don't know.
Yeah.
And you just let people tell you what they want and how we can come together.
Yeah.
And that's what I think,
That's unique.
very, very. And I have so many such stories which are very unique, where one guy could not clear his training. He was on the spectrum. And I mean, again, we are a professional organization, so we have to abide by these processes. And we went back and said, "You know what, you've not cleared, so how do we do?" We do give multiple chances, but still after that, it didn't happen. And the beauty of this is, I had his mother coming, over to office. And she said, "Pavitra, can I speak to you?" I said, "Yeah, I would love to. Let me know what I can do." She said, "I know my son has not cleared his, certification. Would you mind putting me in training?" Are you sure? Do you want to get into training? "I've done this all through my life. Tell me whether you've not done for your kid. You've learned math, you've learned science, even though your math and science in your school was different, but still you went back, you've learned through YouTube or some friend or anybody, and you've then taught your child, right?" I would do the same thing. So she went into training. Okay. She got certified. She taught the son, and later he got certified. I mean, it's very different world out there. Then you just keep it open.
Yeah.
When you not define by the corporate only guideline, because we are not actually failing to meet any of the metrics or parameters which my client has set. In the process, we are actually institutionalizing inclusion to make this a very what do you call designed a very well designed process than just, making 1% do it. So today I know that, if somebody is not doing, maybe we'll ask the family members, can you come over, help us and all. So
Yeah. I'm still processing. So when someone from your team, someone who came to you as a last hope, fails, how do you carry that? Do you take it personally?
Everything at Vindhya for me is very personal. I keep telling this, that Vindhya is like my daughter.
I love the name though.
Yeah. So for me, every action, every thing we do here is extremely personal. So one, if somebody reaches out to me that you are the last hope, then it gives me even more responsibility to stand up and really look into what is that which has led to this kind of an outcome, right? And it keeps coming back to me in trying to not just look at that person but look at the entire system, because this person took the courage to come and reach me out, but there are so many people out there who still feel it's not easy to go and reach out. But how would I say it? What if I say it, right? I would want to answer those questions and those people in all of this I'm trying to do. So probably my way of looking at through this person, I mean, I'll make him or her the ambassador of change in taking away the fear and bringing in that courage to come just forward and have that conversation and not be defied by what will I be tagged as and all of that. Because again, it's just not about people who are on the floor or who are it also at our leadership levels, right? Sometimes things don't work, sometimes you don't understand, but you don't have that courage because as a leader, we have defined that, we have to be like this. You have to look strong, right? You cannot be vulnerable. I want people to, use vulnerable. I mean, actually pin it up as your badge and say that, yes, I am vulnerable here. I need your help. And with your help, I think I'll become stronger is what I want to. Okay.
Have you ever fought a system so hard for one person that winning changed you permanently? Is there any example?
I think there is a constant fight internally within me, internally within the organization, within my client, within the communities also. Very interestingly, we had a client initially who knew about us, but he was excited about what we were doing, but he was not very sure. Even today, we have these questions, but a very subtle question today because people are very aware of things. They're not very sure if I can ask this and all of that. Are you sure people like this can deliver? Can they be productive? How is that a person with visual disability can take calls, work on a computer, right? How can you imagine a person with autism leading people, because we have people in my HR team who lead for interviews. They help the candidates move across the stages. So this person actually, said, Pavitra, this is a very important project for me. I have to deliver this. And we have a timeline, stringent timelines and very strong quality. I said, what is that we are questioning here? No, my question is, will the people who we are trying to look at, will they be able to deliver what we want? I said, let's try this out. I'm going to be a part of, this training process. And we'll see how it works. If it doesn't work, I agree with you that, okay, we will have to change people. But if it works, I think then it's a success to both of us. So we went into training and we had people with hearing disability and with physical disability. And this guy was trying to do, and I was trying to, I mean, I'm not somebody who knows sign language, but I was trying to, within my limited knowledge, trying to communicate and all of that. It got so interesting. First day he was like, Pavitra, I'm not sure, but still I'm telling you. The second day is like, okay, let's try. Third day is like, Pavitra, can you teach me sign language? Right? And it really, really made a big difference. And, people actually jumped and said, you know what, I will teach you sign language and all of that. And we finished our training, we finished our certifications, we started delivering you. Let me tell you, Neha, I think the client only said I have to find a synonym for fabulous, fantastic, and great work. That's what I think we really fought. Even after signing an agreement, we had this challenge that, I'm not very sure this will work, right? We really fought a lot of assumptions and perceptions and bias and
Yeah.
all of that, but we made it happen. Yeah. So I feel that's been my biggest win, which also gave me confidence to move ahead
Yeah.
in just trusting
The process.
and the process we have.
Do you ever feel anger at systems, at people, at the pace of change?
Yes, I do. I mean, when I really go out and look at a lot of things which has been done from providing the basic necessities, I'm really angry at what we have not been able to create, right? Why we feel it is not important. Um, I uh, I was in UK trying to have a conversation with one person on wheelchair. Okay, there were roads, there were policies, there was everything. But still, he said, we still don't have everything. We need to get these things right, but we have not even reached to that level of having the basic things in place.
Like examples?
Like the accessible roads, right? Accessible transport. We still feel that having a person with disability is sometimes a favor we are doing, and we will take that additional step. Sometimes it is corporate social responsibility, right? At an educational system, right? How many of our teachers are sign language interpreters, right? Of course, today tech is becoming a big enabler in trying to help, but still, a lot of our basics are still not in place. Lot of our basics. So I really get angry with that. I really feel that if we had that, we wouldn't be speaking about inclusion exclusively, right? I think that's where they are also. I mean, this set of people with disability or the communities whom we work with are also people who are like you and me, who have, if they had got the right access to education, access to all those small things from travel to transport, to the playgrounds, right? Forget about a lot of things. I think it would have been the equal space which we have created. And the discrepancy today, or there is inequality today because they didn't start at the same point as we started. I'm really angry at that.
So, what do you do to replenish yourself when the work becomes very heavy?
Work has never become heavy to me.
Yeah.
I feel my office is like a therapy center, a spa for me, because when I go look at each one of them who come back with their own challenges, not really shy away from being what they are, right? So that is something I really feel energized with. There are new challenges and yeah, which is thrown at me. I really feel nice looking at them. And for a lot of people, you are the hope. So it also gives me that responsibility of not looking at this as a burden,
Yeah.
but a pleasure.
I'm waking up every day with the purpose.
And ultimately, the stronger mission and the purpose which I carry, I think, is beyond that just workspace which I am, a part of. In fact, a lot of our ideas, a lot of our answers to these questions, come from this place, and there's no other place which can give me that kind of strength and purpose which I get. So it's never a stressful day. But yeah, I also love having conversations. I love painting. I love playing with kids. We also have a daycare facility at office. So I just go enjoy, sit with them, watch some cartoon. It could be Chota Beam or, just something which is on the TV. Share that one piece of biscuit with them and eat with them, right? And just looking at their innocence and, just be with them. I think these are some of my days off.
So, what has this work healed in you?
I think the work has really helped me take away my doubts. I mean, because generally, as human beings and more as a women, you have a lot of self doubt whether you can do this. I think that has really helped me. A lot of blind spots, right?
Getting more confident.
Yeah. Take away a lot of your assumptions, bringing in more clarity
Yeah.
with whatever you're doing, and ultimately leading to, confidence. I think that's been my biggest healing. And just keep learning because this is a space, this is a life which has always, helped me see things differently every single day, right? I mean, we have so many people. I mean, when I speak to each of them and their own families, uh, it's like I have seen my own people wearing a new dress and celebrating on my birthday, right? What more you can ask for, right?
Yeah.
I have seen people, tattooing Vindhya's name because they say that this is where all my beginnings happened in my life, right? What more healing
Yeah.
you want?
Yeah.
I have seen people who have, framed the first check, salary checks of theirs. They're like, how many of us have even thought about it, right? I have seen people, storing those whatever training sheets or assessment sheets which we have given, um, which is for me nothing. But when I look at them, it is so much.
Yeah.
Right? That thought really heals me. That thought really energizes me. I have seen families which have been, talking about us every day. Right, you are a part of a breakfast conversation. You are part of a dinner conversation. So we also have this initiative, or book reading we do,
Yeah.
okay, with leaders. And I have my people coming back and saying that, you know what, the book reading is not just limited to us. I go back, read with my wife, right? We discuss a lot of things. So in all of these things, it has helped just not me, but also my, the family. So each of these things, right? I can just go on with my list, right? I mean, it's just becomes much more deep and very
Meaningful,
very meaningful, right? So I just feel, like I said, this is a space where I feel I really belong and only gain. I think that we are giving, but I'm getting, or I'm receiving so much in the process of being with them. We thought we are just creating another company, but I actually have created, um, um, you know, something which is, I can't even define. Right? That's what for me Vindhya is.
You've said that you can't give, one of your earlier articles that I was reading, that you can't give 100% to both family and career. What have you personally sacrificed that you don't speak about publicly?
See, it's always difficult to, balance. I've never believed in balancing. It is always about integrating and making those choices at the right time. There has been days, I mean, I can also say, or I think my daughters would also say, that I have not been a part of their parent-teachers meeting. I have not been a part of a lot of things, right? But we together make that conscious choice of prioritizing at that point of time what was important. I also, during COVID, both me and my husband were working almost every day, going to office, because we had set up a helpline, and we had almost 500 people working through the day. And you know how COVID was. It was very difficult. My families were, really worried, as, why do you want to go do this? We're also part of, serving food for a set of people. So we were going out. There were a lot of concerns. But at that point of time, it was important for us to be there. And that was a choice we made, right? And we knew that it is difficult to balance, right? Maybe when we get back home, kids are at home, there could be, chances that we get COVID and the family also could be affected and all of that. But still, the family said it is fine. I think it's important you stand by. Let me tell you, we didn't get COVID. I was never, positive with COVID. And I keep telling that. I think the love is actually the immunity shield which everybody extends.
Yeah. It's all the fear in your head, actually.
That's it.
Yeah.
So it's just that we made the right choices at the right time. We prioritized, but we were communicating it. I mean, it is with family or it is with office, with the teams. We always communicated that at this point of time, I need to be there, right? If it is my daughter's graduation, I used to tell my teams, you know what, even if it is an important meeting, I want you to help me because I have to be there.
Yeah.
So I also have told my husband or my family, my daughters, that, you know what, I may not be a part of this parent-teacher or some birthday party celebration, but this is important because it's a very, important work which we have to do there. So I've always said it is more about integration than balancing, but with clear communications and, so that both the parties are aware that what we are making a choice today and it is very conscious and we both accept and support each other in this. So that's what we've done.
That moment with the hearing impaired woman, I'll teach you sign language, you teach me the work. What was that like?
Oh, wow. I think that was the first time I was actually
was an interview, right?
looking. So it was very interesting. So I was taking interviews initial days, and this my security guy gave me 2 profiles, and he said, they can't speak, but I'm just letting you know. Then I came out of my cabin and looked at them. Both of them were bubbling with energy. They were sort of smile, and they were like ready to get started and all that. And we just knew into it. We didn't know. Honestly, we didn't know disability. We didn't know anything about disability. So we started writing actually. And during our conversations, I was telling her, what, we should learn this. There will be training, there will be conversation. But how do you think I can have a conversation? I have no clue. Then she said, have you seen this, DD1 news? There's one lady who's always doing something. Have you realized what it is? I said, I know she's doing something. Then she said, this is sign language. I said, okay, so how do we proceed? Because she had more experience than me. Okay, there's no way that I could say that, you are not qualified to do this. I was so happy that she was a part of us. And these 2 girls, were just around, and I wrote to them, I don't know this language. I don't know how to deal with you. I don't know how to communicate and all of that. She said, let's do this. I will teach you sign language, you teach me your job. That is when, there was this beautiful, feeling that you're not alone in this, right?
And you're equal, right?
Yeah. And people are, bringing you to new experiences, worlds, which you never thought you will be a part of. All I knew was I am going to be an entrepreneur who will employ people and give them employment, and that's it. Right? Only after getting in there, how many times you've seen somebody offering you when you think you are offering everything? That is something was a big thing. Yeah, it's actually a surprise when she said, and also like, are you sure? I mean, can I learn sign language? Is it really possible? She said, we try it out then.
Yeah.
And trust me, I think she's the most talkative in the organization today. And, we have all the conversations. We used to travel, back home in bus and auto and all of that. And people around us always felt, what are these ladies up to? They're thinking so much. I think she introduced me to a beautiful world of sign language. And I later realized that all of us know sign language.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody in
okay.
our own ways.
Okay.
For example, if you realize you have guests at home, you have to have some conversation, you have to call somebody,
Yeah.
even your eyes speak, right?
Yeah.
Body speaks, your hands speak. It's
Yeah.
just that this is more a structured way of having a conversation when you know that the other person cannot hear, and
Yeah.
your sign has to be so well
Yeah.
communicated so that they understand.
Yeah.
I think my biggest realization is that you get so much
Yeah.
being offered
Yeah.
by people whom you think
Yeah.
are only here to receive.
Yeah.
But this girl really gave me a biggest surprise of my life. And made my communication so much more stronger, because even when I'm speaking also, my signs speak a lot
Yeah.
than just the conversation. So I'm becoming more inclusive in not just communicating
Yeah.
to you, and even if there is somebody sitting out here who cannot hear me, but they can make out with the signs.
But you're learning the language also
Yeah.
in the process.
Yeah.
So can you share a moment when adapting a space or process made someone say, finally, I can do this?
Oh, yeah. I think I will start with me first. We had this very interesting, evening when people, a lot of my friends were saying, you are hiring everybody, but you're not really looking at a set of people with visual disability. We said, I'm like thinking, but I'm not sure, but we will bring somebody on board and understand. So there was one girl who came, and we leaders were sitting, and we were just trying to make her feel comfortable. I think she had a laptop of her own, I think. Yeah. And we said, you know what, we want to introduce, people with visual disability, but we have no clue on how to do it. So we wanted to understand directly from you. And she said, okay, let's do this. What do you want a person here to do? Or what is your job? We said we do two things. One, we do data processing. We bring in a lot of documents, we key in, we validate and all of that. Second one is we have a lot of conversations in multiple languages with our end customers. She said, what do you want me to do? I said, whatever you think is comfortable. What do you think is the most difficult thing? I think data keying in and data validation, because conversation is easy. Yeah. Okay, let's start with that. And this girl said, just start reading out something to me so that I just key in that so you know what it. So my husband decided that, okay, I will do this. And he started reading. He's like, good morning, Neha, and all of that. And she's like, can you read it a little faster? This is really getting difficult for me to, keep at this pace. So the first understanding was, again, if you think, again, your perceptions, your assumptions, if you think the other person needs to be done differently, I think they don't need anything different. And we read two paragraphs, and she finished typing. She said, are you done? We thought, oh, okay. She just typed, and this is what we've done. And we're so impatient, right?
Yeah.
I think that is something I've learned.
Yeah.
Patience from my people. If you think, so that girl, I think she could smell the impatience in the room. And she said, if you think I'm done, I'm not done yet. Give me one more minute. And she's quickly read all formatting, spell check. And this is like 12 years ago, right? Did everything. And she said, okay, what do you want me to save this as? And who do you want me to send it? Do you want me to email it? And all of that. I'm like, wow. That is when I'm like, yes, we did it. And now we have people, like this whom we can employ. I think that was the moment, joy, and we felt, I think, we got it.
So you also sponsor the education of every employee's child below the manager level. When did you decide to do that?
I mean, when we started Vinlia, like I mentioned, my daughter was 6 months old, and we were also, parents who were trying to do things differently. Your child is growing up, you feel education is very important. And sometimes, because of your financial constraints, you kind of not really look at this as a very important, or you want to look at this, but sometimes it holds you back. Then and the kind of people who we were having also, they were like first time coming in, they never thought of families. I mean, the support system was very limited. Then we said, if we have to really make a difference, not just for the present but for the future, I think we should really keep them in our mind. And as parents, we also know how easy or difficult is to fund education with everything you have, right? So then we decided we will set aside a small share of whatever we have and try to support in our own way. And it is not just about today and today's generation. I mean, it is more about future. Who will really make a difference? Who will make inclusion not exclusive? But they just learned, because today I have kids. I mean, our own employees' kids who talk about inclusion, who take pride in, talking about their parents who are with disability. I think some of them are working in MNCs, some of them are in schools doing really well, but they know what it is. And their own futures are defined around inclusion. They want to really make a difference. I think that's, so the decision of making it, bringing it is more when we were parents, and when our kids started going to school, and when we could not really afford the best. And secondly, when we felt that, when we are making a change, a difference, let's not look at just the present, but let's look at the future.
The Hyderabad campus?
We are not set up. Of course, it is still a dream.
Yes.
We are trying to look at what we can do, because this definitely needed a lot of bandwidth of ours. And we were moving from one stage to another in our corporate life and the personal life. So it is still shaping up. It might happen in Hyderabad, it can happen in Bangalore. So we still dreaming about it and trying to see how soon we can create it.
Okay. Last question. What's the lesson that took you the longest to learn, but it's now the most important to you?
One lesson which I feel as a leader is not always having answers. It is always about asking the right questions, making somebody really understand that you're not here with answers. You're not here trying to give you opinions. As I said, being heard. Be that person who listens and not react, but respond to people. Understand situations differently, not like your ego define, the conversation or the role. Understand the role and the power so differently, because I always, keep questioning it. The power you have is to, create something, right? To make something very meaningful, which should not be used, to hurt somebody, to demean somebody's efforts, right? There are a lot of people who are doing so much, right? Have you really been that person who have asked the right questions to help both of us seek the right answers? I think that's my biggest learning in this entire journey.
Thank you, Parajna. Thank you for your time and for this really meaningful conversation today. I wish you all the best.
Thanks so much.
From turning challenges into opportunities to building a business rooted in humanity, Pavitra reminds us that success is not just measured in numbers, but in lives transformed. Her journey proves that inclusion is in charity. It's powerful, sustainable change. Thank you for tuning into Expressions Podcast. Like, share, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the New Indian Express for more such inspiring stories.